It is Friday. We made it October 11th, 2024. Coming up on Wilkow, Harris has another accent. We'll be talking to Deb Rogers from the United West about Kamala Harris's promises in Pennsylvania. She's from Pennsylvania. Kamala Harris wants to wreck Pennsylvania. Nicholas Giordano is going to join me. He is a college professor in political science. Tim Walz says he wants to get rid of the Electoral College so we have a mobocracy. My argument tonight: the Democrats have a problem, and it's a problem with gender. You're going to have to watch to get what I mean. And Frank Lassie, author of Climate and Energy Lies, is going to join me. We're a little heavy on energy. We're going to talk hurricanes and fracking. That's coming up in just a few minutes. Welcome to the program. I'm your host, Andrew Wilkow. It is 9 p.m. here at Ground Zero. It's Friday. We made it. Now, I don't know if we have a lot of Univision viewers in our audience, but last night, Kamala Harris was hosted in a town hall in front of the Univision audience. And I don't know how many accents we're up to, but she adopted a new accent last night.
Well, first of all, thank you for the question, and I hope your family is okay and your home is okay.
Your home is okay. ASA. What's up, Holmes? Let's take a ride in our lowrider. So what do we get for 5, 6, 7 accents at this point? Well, anyone that thinks that Kamala Harris speaks off the cuff, and honestly, no, everything she says is in a teleprompter.
Victim of crime. Are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? The only question I ever ask is, are you okay? And sadly, we have seen over the last 2 weeks since Hurricane Helene.
There's no host on the floor, okay? There's no host on the floor. Everything she's saying was being fed to her by a teleprompter. But all right, enough of having fun with it. Here's something serious. I've been telling you on this program, I've been saying it on SiriusXM Patriot here in the Salem News Channel. November 6th starts the 26th midterm race and the 28th presidential election. If Kamala Harris gets elected with a Democrat House and a Democrat Senate, 20 million people who are in the country illegally will be voting in the midterms and then the 28th presidential election. And then you can cancel the republic. Watch.
The first bill we offered within hours of taking the oath was a bill to fix the immigration system, including creating a comprehensive, earned pathway to citizenship for hardworking people. And it was not taken up. And now we look at a situation where people are suffering. The reality is that in terms of having access to health care, had your mother been able to gain citizenship, she would have been entitled to health care that may have alleviated her suffering and yours. And this is one example of the fact that there are real people who are suffering because of an inability to put solutions in front of politics. I mean, an example of this on immigration policy is that as it relates to what we need to do to strengthen our border.
She was asked a question by a woman who identified her mother as a lifelong illegal immigrant who allegedly passed away from being unable to access public health care programs, which we know people in the country illegally are accessing them. So the point was twofold. One, she wants a pathway to citizenship, that's amnesty, and to have those people voting as soon as possible. Two, she believes everyone's entitled to free health care from government. One of the other questions, though, was about bringing down the cost of inflation on food and energy. And her only response was that she was going to fight price gouging, which means she's going to use the Department of Justice to attack grocery stores and probably even oil companies. Well, joining me now to discuss the fight for oil production in the must-win state of Pennsylvania is Pennsylvania native and Mayor of Williamsville, New York, and spokeswoman for the United West, Deb Rogers. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Does anybody really believe that Kamala Harris has really changed her heart on energy production? every step of the way until it became obvious she might not win Pennsylvania with a ban on fracking. She said in a CNN town hall, she said it on the campaign trail, she said it everywhere she went, she was going to ban fracking. But now she has to win Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so nobody believes it. This is just a typical what Democrats tend to do. They have a policy one day, and when the winds change and start blowing in the other direction, they go along with that as well, and they change their policy. So it's nothing that anybody who's followed what's been going on over the past 4 years, we haven't seen that happening time and time again.
Well, and it's not just Pennsylvania. I mean, upstate New York, Andrew Cuomo destroyed the fracking industry in upstate New York. This is clean, natural energy that provides us low-cost fuel and thousands upon thousands of jobs in these two states.
Absolutely. So as you probably know, Pennsylvania is the second largest state for oil production. Texas takes number one, and Pennsylvania alone produces about 13 million barrels of oil per day. It is a form of energy that the economy in certain parts of Pennsylvania rely heavily upon. And unfortunately, a ban on fracking is just translate to higher costs of products anytime you go to the grocery store. Let's face it, higher gas pump means higher transportation for our truckers, and those costs are then transferred down to the consumer when you walk into the grocery store.
You know, it's funny, the Democrats think they have a winning line here that Trump's tariffs on China are going to raise prices, and then they insert the word inflation. Now, Trump's tariffs are still in place, right? They were in place before Biden. They didn't cause inflation. Biden came in the office, canceled land leases, pipelines, and then Kamala Harris cast the deciding vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, and we watched prices go whoop, so 20% higher for groceries, 40% higher for rents, 50% higher at the gas pump. It's come down a little bit, but we're still living with most of these baked-in prices. There's no way she's going to bring down inflation by attacking grocery stores, food providers, and banning forms of energy that we need. But, it's funny how they say Trump's tariffs equal a tax, except what they're doing, that's not a tax.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to specifically get Christian voters out to the polls. So, for example, the state where I grew up, Pennsylvania, in the 2020 election, we had roughly 1.5 million registered Christian voters stay home. They didn't go out and vote that year. And consequently, the state of Pennsylvania was won by Biden by 80,555 votes, which, if you do the math, we really only even needed 100,000 registered Christian voters to come out that year and vote for President Trump. So our push this year with the digital billboard campaign is to really educate and mobilize those Christian voters and have them hopefully look at the past 4 years of what we've gone through under the Biden-Harris administration and hopefully look towards a brighter future with Trump in office.
Yeah, I was shocked. I talked to Scott Pressler pretty regularly, and he was giving me some pretty scary numbers about faith voters staying home. I had Troy Miller, the president of the National Religious Broadcasters, on my radio program, and he said the same thing. He said some people just, they don't engage. They just try to pray away the political demons. I'm like, well, the old thing about being on the rooftop and, someone says, God, why didn't you save me? So I sent you the sheriff, I sent you the Coast Guard, I sent you the Navy. We're giving you the vote. If you don't register to vote, you can't pray away the demons in Washington. You got to vote them out.
Absolutely. And, it's funny that you mentioned that because really a non-vote is by default a vote for the other team, right? And we really, I get that, as Christians, some Christians may find that perhaps Trump doesn't exemplify what they believe to be of good moral character. And I would just say to those Christians, I consider a vote for Trump as more of a vote for a movement, and that movement is freedom and liberty. The Democrats over the past 4 years, one need only look at what they did here in New York State during the COVID hysteria. Businesses were forced to close, schools were closed. The tyrannical, dictatorial policies that were instituted under the Democrat control. It's just, do we want that for our future and for our children, or do we want true freedom, true liberty, pro-America, pro-Constitution for our future?
Well, all right. You know, you're not going to find a more pro-Christian network than the Salem News Channel, okay? We don't take callers here. But when I get that call on my radio show, I say, you're not voting for your pastor, right? If you're a Jewish voter, you're not voting for your rabbi. This is not somebody who's going to be leading you spiritually. I mean, this is somebody who should be operating the functions of government in your best favor. Roe v. Wade is gone. So, you know, if you are a Christian voter, if you're a faith voter or a Jewish voter, whatever, no one's asking you to have Donald Trump lead your church or lead your synagogue. We're asking him to lead the executive branch. So, you know, everyone's got flaws. And let me tell you something, the other side is 1,000 times worse.
Absolutely. And you know, first and foremost, as a Christian, myself as well, none of us are perfect human beings, right? We all err. And I would just, you know, my call is to Christians to, you know, look at it more as a movement. What do you want to see for the future of this country? And that, if you search your heart and you look at what you value, then go out and vote for that candidate. And chances are, if you're a Christian, I can tell you what candidate you're not going to vote for, based upon the policies that we've seen rolled out over the last 4 years and that are currently being discussed as well.
And you know what? The Democrats have no problem pandering to certain churches. They try to use the churches when it's convenient and then turn their backs on them when it's convenient. I got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and you as well.
All right. Somehow we went from fracking to Christian voters, but Christian voters need to get to church, right? How do you do that without oil and or, you know, heating your homes with natural gas? All right, coming up, Tim Walz wants to get rid of the Electoral College. Why? For obvious reasons. The Democrats want a mobocracy. That's coming up right after this SNC Fast Break.